Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Build a Mind podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Bello, and today I'm going to be talking with a Bitcoiner and fellow heatpunk over in Europe, Switzerland to be exact. So Sam Weiland is working for Riot. Riot is not the Riot platforms that we're thinking of here in America. They're actually a heat reuse platform over in Europe that is building the Riot 1, a new and exciting way to heat your home. Now, they are specifically in the European market. They're not really getting into the American market yet, but I still think this is a really cool product to discuss, to talk about. It's really cool. It's got a lot of fancy flashing lights. It's an immersion-based heating system. It plugs directly into a hydronic boiler or other types of water cool or water other types of water heating systems. So, think of radiant floor systems. You could think of like a hot tub or a pool or a hot water heater. It's really cool. So Sam is a Bitcoiner. He's an electrical engineer and a researcher specializing in Bitcoin mining. He has a theoretical background in energy and control systems. And as an emerging professional, he recently landed his first role in the Bitcoin industry and is currently working as a product specialist for Riot. He builds Bitcoin heating solutions for the European market. So his experience in mining so far is primarily on the theoretical side. And as part of a study paper, he analyzed publicly available reports from listed Bitcoin mining companies to gain insights into their deployed hardware, manufacturer market shares, and hash rate distribution. So on the practical side, he's learning a lot through hands-on work with installing the Riot 1 into customer sites and leading the development of the new Riot Mini. So really excited to have this conversation with Sam. I think it's a good one to have. He's very new to the Bitcoin mining market, the mining scene, but what they're doing over at Riot is really exciting. I really love heat reuse, and I think that it's really cool to just have these conversations and talk about it. So we're going to learn a little bit about the Riot 1. We're going to learn a little bit about Sam, and we're going to, try to convince him to come to a Bitcoin event here in the States, and maybe they'll debut and, get into the American market as well. But more heating systems in Bitcoin means more proliferation of the Bitcoin network. And that is something that I love to see. You guys know I'm a heat punk at heart. And I hope to see hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of units, different types of heating infrastructure. So this is a really great one. Before we get into the podcast, there is a couple of things that I have to go over. So the first thing is our Mastermind Club.
Join the Mastermind Club, a weekly gathering of Bitcoin miners sharing insights to help you optimize or build your mining business. Our community fosters open discussion and collaboration, connecting you with experts who can help you overcome challenges and find solutions faster. Every other week, we host the Mastermind Deep Dive, where industry leaders delve into the financial, operational, and optimization hurdles faced by miners like you. Brought to you by Bitcoin Mining World.
All right, you guys, as always, I made it super easy. Go to the link there at the bottom of your screen or scan the QR code to join the Mastermind Club. It is a free community for you to join so that you can learn about Bitcoin mining, from everything from small scale mining to large scale industrial mining. It's a great place, a great opportunity, and I hope to see you guys there. Also, if you guys are looking to get into Bitcoin mining and actually purchase miners, maybe you're looking to buy a site, maybe you're looking to, get some industrial equipment like immersion infrastructure, transformers, whatever it is, definitely hit up Bitcoin Mining World. You can hit up my boy Yannick. He does all of our sales and services over there. So definitely hit us up. We can help you get a hold of all the equipment that you need. We can help you get into a site. We can help you get involved in the Bitcoin mining scene, whether you're trying to start on a small scale and just buy a couple of miners, or whether, you want to place an order for hundreds of miners, we can hook you up. And the last thing that I want to talk about before we get into the podcast with Sam is I'm going to be at Bitcoin Alaska in July. So July 5th and 6th in Juneau. It's going to be a great place, a great time to hang out with Bitcoiners, see the iconic beauty that Alaska has to offer. I used to live in Alaska, and I really do miss the scenery. I miss the environment at times. I don't miss the fact that it's a little secluded, but I do miss the people. I do miss the beauty and the adventures that I used to have camping and hiking and exploring the wilderness. So if you guys have never been to Alaska, this is a great opportunity for you to get out there, have a vacation, enjoy some of the scenic opportunities that Alaska has to offer. And then also come hang out with a bunch of Bitcoiners who are really trying to push the needle on what it means to be a Bitcoiner and what it means to mine Bitcoin, and how can Alaska as a source for abundant energy resources, how can Alaska get involved in Bitcoin mining? So I'm really excited about this conference. I think that it's going to be high signal. It's going to be Bitcoin only. And there's going to be a lot of really, really great speakers there, a lot of really cool events happening before the conference. So definitely get out there, get your tickets now, because I think they're about to be sold out. I know the VIP tickets are gone. And, if you're watching this and you're thinking, maybe I should go, you should get your tickets now. All right, guys, with that, let's jump right into the podcast with Sam Weiland. Sam, how are you doing today, brother?
Very good. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, man, it's really exciting. I love talking about heat reuse. And, I know you guys are over in the European market with the Riot 1, but it's a really cool product. And, I think that we should definitely shed some light on, how you guys built this product, what need and use case you guys have seen, and, how the market has really taken to this product. Before we dive into the Riot 1 and Riot as a company, I'd like to just get a little background history on who Sam is and, kind of what you're involved in the space. So I'll let you kind of take the reins wherever you want to start with the podcast. But generally, I just like to give like a brief or, thorough overview of who you are. So I'll let you take it away.
So the short version is I'm a Bitcoiner, and I'm fairly recent at Riot now, but it's very exciting to me that I got a full Bitcoin job, and also Bitcoin mining would fit with my expertise. So I studied electrical energy engineering and worked at the transmission system operator here in Switzerland, and also focused on control systems and my personal ideas and my personal topics that I like to focus on, like Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, fit perfectly with the company Riot. So I'm excited to share what we are working on.
How did you get involved with electrical systems engineering? Is this something that you've always been passionate about, or is it something that you kind of just fell into?
It was after my bachelor's degree at the university here in Zurich, where I decided I need to take a break from the studies and get my hands dirty and work in the field. So I decided to do an internship at the Swissgrid, the TSO transmission system operator of Switzerland, and got to learn a lot about how the grid works, which problems there are, which problems will come up in the future. And that's why I ended up there and learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly. And combined at the same time, I started looking into Bitcoin. It was during COVID, so I was always prone to save money. Never knew what to do with it. Just wanted to have it on the side for the future in cases of emergency, or if I have a bigger project that I would have it. But somehow I never really felt quite that it was a good place to have it in fiat, even though the Swiss franc is a quite stable fiat currency. So that's how I got into Bitcoin, and then later merged the two topics, the energy and the energy in Bitcoin, which is Bitcoin mining. And yes, and because the electricity prices in Europe are quite high, there was never really big mining in Europe, as far as I know. And so from my perspective, the heat reuse is the perfect use case for Europe, and it makes sense to deploy it here in Europe for the customers, or even in bigger installations.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I can see definitely how, Bitcoin played a role as someone who's trying to save money. You're trying to save money, and even in a relatively stable currency like the Swiss franc, you're saving money and you're still watching your savings kind of get eroded through time. So Bitcoin really definitely steps in, and it's like, it's like this light bulb moment of like, oh man, I can finally save money. And I'm curious if it's the same for you, but for me, when I got into mining, it was like this secondary light bulb went off, and I was like, wait a minute, this makes so much sense to get into mining because I can make my own currency. I can learn more about electrical grids. I can learn about energy systems, and I've personally learned a lot more about Bitcoin when I dove into the Bitcoin mining side of things. Is that kind of similar for you, or was it just because you are an electrical engineer that it just kind of made sense?
No, also quite similar for me as well, but I would say for me it was the hands-on experience. So when I plugged in my first S9 in the living room, my father complained that it's loud and that the room heated up. He was scared that I would use too much electricity. So I got the feeling how the energy is being used, how it's being transformed in these chips, in these quite compact machines. And yeah, that way I kind of got a better grasp of what makes the Bitcoin so secure, what makes Bitcoin a strong and global network, which cannot be attacked, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, mining, you put that physical miner inside of a room and you realize how hot that room gets. You can hear that thing from down the hall, and you're like, "Man, I got to figure out how to mitigate this." And I think I think it's just interesting, when you start to dive into the way that mining works, how it, builds on your prior knowledge of Bitcoin and then kind of expands your horizons. So, let's dive into Riot. First, tell me what Riot is and why you guys decided to build a Bitcoin mining space heater.
So maybe I can start with the story behind Riot, which our CEO always likes to share. So Christian, the CEO of Riot, he visited a friend's house and it was quite hot. So he asked, "What are you doing here? Why is it so hot?" And the friend opened the door and there were like these IKEA shelves full with mining machines. And he said, "Yeah, that's Bitcoin. I'm Bitcoin mining." So that's for Christian. So his first experience with Bitcoin actually was the heat. So that's why he later had the idea, why can't we use this heat to heat the properties, heat our houses, and get the cash back at the same time? So use mining, Bitcoin mining, and secure the Bitcoin network and get Bitcoin in return with which you can reduce the electricity bills. So that's the story behind Riot. So we started this startup. They built their first prototype so they could show it at conferences, get investors. And now last year we started deploying our first product, the Riot 1. So we already installed 10 units at different houses, different setups. So if you think of the most houses in Europe, they are heated with a heating system with warm water. So our machines heat up the water, be it with the Riot 1 with immersion mining or with the future products, hydro-cooled mining machines. And we want to make it as easy as possible for the customer to replace their heating unit, be it an oil heater, gas heater, or heat pump, whatever the customer has.
Mm-hmm. So most of these heat systems in Europe, I did not know this, are hydronic boilers. And for the audience, if you're unfamiliar with that, a hydronic boiler is just there's a centralized heating system and it boils some type of fluid, and that fluid is sent through tubes. Generally, it's an oil-based fluid, but then it's sent through piping and that heat radiates outward. So what you guys have done with Riot and the Riot 1 is you're basically replacing that centralized heating boiler and you're heating up a immersion fluid. Is that then going through a heat exchanger and heating up the fluid that's already existing in the pipes, or I would imagine you're probably not rebuilding the entire system. You're just redoing that heat system, correct?
Correct. We are only replacing the central heating units, be it the oil heater or the gas heater, which heats up the water directly. We replace it with our mining solution. So we use WhatsMiner immersion cooled Bitcoin miners. The oil cools down the chips in the miners. The oil is in its own system. It goes through a heat exchanger and heats up the water, which then goes through the existing house heating system, which is just normal water in these pipes. And for the listeners, how they could imagine it is that here are mostly radiators installed or floor heating. So it goes through pipes like here on the side and heats all the rooms in the house.
Okay. So could you just, tell me, how did you get involved with Riot, and at like what stage of the company? Like was the prototype being built, or were you kind of at the very beginning stages of this company helping to design the whole product?
I joined later to Riot. So I was still doing my studies, and I joined last year in October, when we were planning the right one to install the right one at the customer locations. So the design was a very important part, which already was done. The design is quite cool and has a bit of this spacey Cybertruck design with LEDs. That was already done, and we were then focusing on production in Europe and bringing the first 10 units to the customers.
Mm-hmm. So I imagine in the European market, because electricity prices are so high, you have a whole different set of hurdles to overcome when trying to build a new style of heating system for people. I know that there's a lot of people building heat reuse systems in industrial settings for district heating and whatnot, like up in Finland where it's super cold. But could you just kind of give us an idea of some of these hurdles that you've had to overcome, and what were the solutions to those problems?
So there were quite some hurdles, but we were lucky that there was already a partner company in Switzerland who was heating like the greenhouses in Switzerland where they grow tomatoes and other stuff, also with Bitcoin mining. So they already took many of the first hurdles that we need to take, like regulatory hurdles, and also checking that the Bitcoin mining is even allowed, because Switzerland, as many other countries, want to transition away from fossil fuel heating, and even if you only use electric heaters, they are not allowed to be installed newly as the heating system. So we had to make sure that the Bitcoin miners that we use are not categorized as strictly electric heaters, because we repurpose the heat and we do compute for the Bitcoin network. So it's a smart solution and not just an electric heater. And because Switzerland is kind of decentralized in different cantons, like different small states, we had to check this regulation with every small state where we want to install one. And then there were different kind of ways the cantons decided which regulation fits for Bitcoin mining heat repurpose. So to give an example, the strangest thing that we got was that the Riot one is, how is it called in English? Like also in Finland, there are these central heating units which heat multiple houses. And I don't remember the name of it.
That's district heating.
District heating, exactly. So in one canton, it was categorized as district heating without the distribution net of the district heating. quite strange, but okay for us because then we are allowed to install it.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, with these different types of regulations in different, because I mean, the European market is a large market. It's not just one country; it's multiple countries. You're kind of facing these different hurdles and stuff like that. What are the customers saying? Like what's the hurdles with the customers? Are you having to go to people door to door, or are certain people like already Bitcoin focused and they want to just install one of these in their home because they know about it? So what's that process like?
So a few of the first customers are actually Bitcoiners, so they find our product quite cool. They just want to install one. They want to mine on their own. They want to choose their mining pool. So they get it quite fast. But we also found that most of the Bitcoiners still want to save in Bitcoin and don't want to invest in a new heating system. That's why they wait until the old oil heater is falling apart, and even then they will come to us. So most of the customers are actually heating experts, which want to install it for themselves to get the experience. They also like the flexibility that the RY1 provides, especially to use overproduced PV production to consume all the electricity that the house solar system produces on their own, reducing the battery sizes which they need to install. So that's why many of the heating experts are our first customers, and also some of them then become our partners to install it at different houses because they have the experience in installing heating units. And all of us four in our team, small team, are actually not the heating experts. We just had the idea to heat with Bitcoin mining and are passionate about it, but we don't have the background in fixing pipes and all the stuff that a heating expert has.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's one of these things where you learn these things over time. You get the people on your team who understand and have the background in, electrical design, like yourself, an electrical engineer. Like you have that background. You were brought on the team because of those specific the specific knowledge that you have, the knowledge set that you have gained over the years. And it's the same thing with like plumbers and HVAC technicians as well. You bring these people on your team and you help them understand the products so that they can help you build a better product and design them in a way that it's safe and secure for the end user. And on that point of like safety, you know, Bitcoin mining is getting a lot of FUD around like the safety concerns, high electrical usage, and whatnot. And I can only imagine in the European market, there's other regulatory factors that play into the type of safety concerns that you have built into your product. Could you kind of just go over some of those safety factors that are built into the Riot One, and maybe some of the other hurdles that you've had to face on the safety side of building this heating product?
Mm-hmm. So what I can speak for now is that we are focusing on the German-speaking part of Europe, where also our first customers will be. So that's Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And here we had to go through the CE certification for our unit to make sure that it's CE certified, that there cannot be any wrong switches in the unit in terms of electricity, that it's safe to be used, it's grounded properly, all the electric parts need to be grounded. And so that was one of the parts that we need to make sure. And then we had to go through a lot of testing to make sure that we can get the heat out of the unit, to use the proper sized, proper dimension pipe, a big enough heat exchanger, and also make sure to separate the liquids from the electronics and so on. Isolate all the heat transporting units in the right one to make sure that the efficiency is how we want it to be. I don't know if you had more specific questions in mind on that, or I could expand.
Well, I just I mean, specifically, like these are high voltage machines, and when you're a retail, when you've got a retail product and you're installing these into people's homes, it's like I built my own heater in my house, and I wasn't concerned about specific specifications on like what is this doing, like how is it protected against fire, how is it protected against like water damage, yada yada yada. I just made sure that the wire sizing was correct and that the relays and breakers were correct as well. And other than that, I didn't have an electrician come in and certify it to make sure that like it was safe and it's not going to blow up. I mean, I'm pretty confident with everything. It's not going to blow up or anything like that. But when you have a retail product and you're selling this product to a customer, you've got to make sure that certain things are covered so that as a company, you don't deal with the backlash of somebody's house burning down or, the government coming in and saying that, hey, you're not installing these up to code. So that was kind of just my question, was like, what are the different like fail safes within the machine that are keeping it from breaking down or starting a fire or leaking oil all over someone's home?
Okay, I see. Yes, so internally we use separate contactors for the power supply to the miner, and the entire unit can be switched off with one switch to make sure that it's safe. And I think this was all covered by the CE certification process that we went through. And we already knew this specifications up front so that we could design it that way. And actually, it's been being installed like a normal central heating unit, just because we use for maybe to give more info on the right one. The right one comes either with 1 watts miner inside or 2 watts miners, depending on how much heat the customer needs. Mm-hmm. So if it's a 2 miner version, we actually need 2 electricity supplies, which are installed by an electrician, so he knows what he's doing. He also has the right size cables and the right protection for that. But it's actually being installed just as another heating unit, and the switches are normally on the house side, so somewhere in the wall, in the distribution, the protective switches are there and not in the unit itself.
Okay. So as far as like heating controls, is this hooked up to, because I'm thinking about my system. It's an air-cooled system, just so that you have a little background, but it's connected through a Wi-Fi PDU switch, and this switch allows me to control the heater, based on the temperature of the room. If it's too cold, it can turn on. If it's too hot, it turns off. Or I can just press a button on my phone and it turns on. So what are some of the user controls that people have with the Riot One? Is this something where it's like on a panel on the wall? Is it something that's connected to their phone? How does it turn on and off? And what are some of the functionalities?
So the Riot One itself, as the heating unit, is kept quite minimalistic. It just has the LEDs which signal if there's an error, a warning. If it's mining, it's orange. If it's ready and not mining, it's green. And the communication to the customer is all through an application at the moment, because we're a small team and startup. It's a web app, not an app from iOS or for iOS or Android. And from there, you can see what's the power usage, how much Bitcoin has in mind. You can switch it on and off if it's not at home. All that can be done through the application. And in the background, we do the automation for the customer. So we set up that the miner is running then when the heat is needed. And normally, or the best setup is if the customer has a big buffer tank. So a water tank somewhere in the basement where we can heat with the miners, heat up the water, heat the buffer tank so that he has the heat for some time. The good thing about a big buffer tank is that we can keep the miners running for longer cycles. Mm-hmm. And this makes the automation easier. We can switch the miners on until the buffer tank is full and then switch it off and wait until more heat is needed again.
Okay.
So at the moment, the automations are kept quite simple, but in the future, we also want to focus on overproduced peaky production, and then we will need to run the miners at certain power levels all through the day to capture all the electricity that's being produced, let's say, for free by the sun on the roof of the house.
So with a buffer tank, are you talking like for hot water systems, or is that a buffer tank for the hydronic boiler, or are these two different systems?
There are different setups. So
Okay.
normally it's buffer tank for the heating circle in the house, so hot water. Sometimes it's combined with the boiler for warm water, like for the tap or for the shower.
Okay.
It depends on the customer, but for us, it's always better if we can use as much of the heat as possible for as many of the use cases as the customer has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more heating use cases you have, the longer you can keep these machines on, which, you know, lengthens the duty cycle, which also, you know, inevitably is better for the miners. I was just curious, like, are you having customers that specifically ask you, like, I want to integrate this into my heating system for my water and for my hydronic boiler, so you have to kind of build two separate systems, or in Europe are these combined systems?
There's both, actually.
Okay.
So in some systems, we need to install a three-way valve to go into both systems, depending on the needs for the heat. Sometimes the customer already has a newer boiler for the warm water, so it does not need that part of the heat, but just for the heating of the house. Yeah, it's different from customer to customer.
For sure.
But we always like to integrate it for all the heat reuse where heat is needed.
Are you getting customers? I guess I should start. How long ago did you guys install your first Riot One?
So we had 3 prototypes. They have been running this whole winter.
Okay.
And from the 10 actual units that we produced, the 10 Riot ones, most of them are running since February this year.
Okay.
So they heated during the cold months and have been running quite smoothly until now.
Awesome.
And now it's getting warmer and not much heat is being used, unfortunately.
That leads me perfect segue into my next question. Are you getting clients that are coming back to you and asking how they can integrate more? You know, like in America, we have a lot of heated pools, hot tubs, you know, hot water heating systems, and then that's on top of like HVAC or central air units. So what I'm seeing is a lot of people are installing these in their HVAC units, figuring out how to use immersion to radiate heat up from their floors. But then, you know, they're also wanting to integrate into their hot water systems so that they have hot showers and stuff like that. But then they also realize, like, oh, wait, I have a hot tub and I have a pool that I would like to heat as well. So are you getting clients that are coming back to you and asking, like, hey, how can I integrate this Riot One into not only my heating system for my home, but also for like a hot tub or a pool?
Yes, definitely. So we even did a video from our first customer. He has a small mansion up here in the mountains. It's quite new. It's like a villa. I don't know if you say that in English, but he has a PV all over his house, so on the roof, on the walls outside, and he actually has his own pool inside and also a sauna, like where he needs a lot of heat. So at his place, it's running all the time. He's always heating the pool. And we also found that some customers get back to us and say, yes, I have so much PV, overproduced PV, and I don't get much from the grid. If I give it back to the grid, could I use it for mining? and what options do we have.
PV, is that like solar power?
PV is solar power, yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay. Just
photovoltaic, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Dude, awesome. About, let's see, about the Riot 1, I presume that the install is pretty straightforward. You have your team come out and, install it into the system of who, the end user, the client. But are you removing the old heating system, or are you kind of building the Riot 1 in tandem with the current heating system?
Actually, both is possible. So some customers, they wanted to integrate them in tandem. So keep the old heating system and also install the right one for one winter, and then switch all the way to the right one if they are happy with the product. That's possible. But actually, the right one has 7 to 14 kilowatts of heat. So that's usually enough for an entire one family home. And that way we can come to the customer, we install it together with our partners, and the partners then remove the old heating unit, and it can heat the whole house on its own.
So what do you guys, okay, obviously the internet sometimes goes out, things happen. What are you doing in the off case that the system doesn't work as expected, or, fails at certain points of the year? Heat is necessary at all times. When people are cold, they want to be able to turn it on, and they want to know that it turns on. So for a little background, in America, a lot of the systems that we're building from the Heatpunk side of things, we're building them in tandem with the current heating infrastructure, so that if the Bitcoin mining system fails for some reason, like the internet goes out or the miner stops working, because these are very finicky machines at times, you want to have that fail safe of the existing current heating system turning on and still heating up whatever it is that you're trying to heat. So what are you guys doing about that problem?
So actually, it is a problem. So we need to make sure that the customers are warm and that they have the heat. So that's why we monitor the running units constantly. And if there are issues, we step in, we try to fix software bugs over the air, or if there are major problems, we go to the customer and fix the unit. In terms of the internet connection, we do not have a solution for that as of yet, but we have some ideas how to circumvent it, either by installing a mobile connection in the router of our unit so that it can switch the internet connection. Or another idea that I had was to run an instant, a small pool on the mining pool on the unit itself, and then switch to that mining pool if the internet connection goes down.
Okay.
So that it's fake mining.
Yeah,
it's
like
actually
a drain pool.
hashing. It's actually hashing, but still heating the house in such rare cases.
Yeah, it points. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Which maybe are not that rare in the future if we look what happened in Spain and Portugal a few days ago. But yeah, in general, the electricity grid is quite stable.
Yeah.
And also the internet connections are quite stable here in Europe.
What happened in Spain and Portugal? I'm not familiar.
I think it was 2 weeks ago. So there was a power outage of entire Spain and Portugal for about a day.
Wow.
And it's still not quite known, or they haven't said anything why it happened. But I think it could be because there is more and more renewable production on the grid, which makes it fluctuate more.
Gotcha.
And more unstable. That's just my guess. But these cases happen if there is a big electricity grid and they are not able to stabilize it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, electricity goes out. There's not much you can do. Most heating systems are electrical heating systems. So once that goes out, I mean, unless you've got a gas boiler, it's not going to work for you anyways. But the way I see it is like internet systems go out, like your internet stops working. Maybe it's a modem, maybe it's, you know, just a break in the connection. And so a good solution is to mine to a drain pool, which is, you know, I think like Ocean has one, like it's the Ocean address, and then it's just like .drain or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, it just allows you to hash and, you know, cycle the heat system, but it's not actually like computing the Bitcoin network. I again, I don't know how that works exactly, but it is a solution. And I think it's important when building, especially a retail piece of hardware. You know, you're selling this to a customer and you want the customer to be happy because, you know, you want them to tell their friends and you want to like build a high quality product that, you know, it works at all times of it. You know, granted, when the electricity goes out, it's not going to work anyways, but you know, you definitely want to like put that R&D into it to make sure that it works for the end user and for the client. So I think you know, it takes time. Obviously, you've only got 10 of these units out in production right now, and obviously you're trying to scale more and more. And you know, these hurdles and these blocks are going to come as you deploy more of these units. So it sounds like you're a very young company, a startup, just trying to figure it out, learn the ropes, and you know, you're gonna run into problems as you go along the road. But if you have a dedicated team, you'll overcome that, and it'll be, you know, it'll be really interesting to see where you guys are, you know, 5 years, 10 years out. I know that, you know, when I look at like companies like Fog Hashing, you know, 5 years ago, Fog Hashing was a tiny little startup company that was just building these like immersion tanks that, you know, people weren't too sure about because there was a couple other ones on the market. And now, you know, skip to 5 years later, today, Fog Hashing is one of the largest immersion container Bitcoin mining companies, and they're known all over the world. They've got several 100,000 units deployed, and they're a pretty large company. So, you know, when I'm thinking about Riot and what you guys are doing with the Riot One, today you guys are a small company with, you know, a very small number of units deployed. But as more and more people see these units, as more and more people find out what these units can do for them, I see you guys growing quite significantly. You guys have a really cool looking product. It's very sleek. I imagine it's pretty affordable. And with a 2 miner system, it could probably heat up a very large portion of a home, and, you know, add in other things like a pool and a hot tub and other aspects of, you know, comfort living. So are you guys trying to break into the American market, or are you specifically trying to stay in the European market right now?
So far, we are focusing on the European market only, because we always have to find partners which install our unit, because it still is for the heating expert a new product. Most of them don't know what Bitcoin is or what Bitcoin mining is. So we need to find partners which are willing to work together with us and install these units. But even though we just have 10 units installed, it's very good for us to get the experience. We see where we have problems, we can fix them right away. We can focus on our existing customers, improve the product, and in the future, now we ordered the 20 next ones, the 20 next units which we want to install. And by the end of the year, we want to have installed 100 Riot ones. And we are also at the same time working on the next product, which will be hydro-cooled and a smaller solution for different use cases.
Yeah. Well, I definitely see you guys growing very quickly, very rapidly once you guys have started to build these different products and you have more and more customers who are really excited and really happy about it. You know, word travels fast, and then if you market yourselves well enough, like you're going to grow rapidly, and you might not be able to keep up with the pace of production that you need to have in order to keep everyone happy. So, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm really excited to see where you guys go. Are you guys planning on showcasing this at any conferences over there in Europe?
Yes, we regularly go to conferences, not only Bitcoin conferences, but also energy conferences where we can display our solutions. We from now on, we will bring a heated seat or a bench, which we can display where the visitors can touch the heat and feel what we are doing, see the use case, and just have a good experience of our product. So
Isn't that
I'm quite
isn't that
excited.
isn't that like the best way to onboard people is just to give them something to like touch and feel, and they're like, "Oh man, it's so warm. I love it. Like I want to get involved."
Yes, yes, it makes the use case quite direct and clear. I think one of our first prototypes, which we showed at conferences, already had a buffer tank on the side where you could put your hand in the warm water and you could feel that will heat up the water where I will shower later. And now we want to show this using this heated bench where they can take a seat, they sit down, talk with us, and get to learn what we are doing at Riot.
Yeah, it's incredible, dude. You know, the I was just at the Heatpunk conference in Denver back in February, and they built a, you know, we called it the cowboy hot tub. I don't know if you saw any of the videos from the event, but they basically took these water troughs for like farming and ranching, and they piped hot water from one of Dane's hash rate house immersion tanks, and they were just cycling that hot water through, and it was so cool to just at that conference just take a dip in the hot water, and it's like, man, like this is heated with a Bitcoin miner, and it's just really cool to like physically viscerally feel the heat from the water. It was like you know, below freezing outside. So it was cold, but then you get in the hot tub and it was nice and toasty. And so everybody wanted to take a dip. It was really cool. And so when I think about this, like when I think about like going to conferences and stuff, if you can show people, not just show them like, oh, look, I have this cool unit, it lights up, it does all these cool fancy things, but it's like, no, feel this heat coming off of it. And people are like, oh man, that's really nice. Let me dip my hand in that hot water.
Yes, that conference that you mentioned, it looked quite cool. I saw all the videos and the pictures about it. I would have loved to be there as well. Also, many new projects were showed there, and yeah, I think this space that we are in is growing rapidly. It's quite exciting, and I just can't imagine what is going to come in the future. But I think there are so many use cases where we can use the heat of Bitcoin mining. If the mining chips can get hotter, there are more and more use cases popping up where we can use it. Yes, so for me, it's the best job. It's so exciting, and yeah, the conferences are always good to talk to potential customers, talk to fellow Bitcoiners, and get the feeling what they want and see
Yeah.
if they like our product.
It feels like we're, because we're working in this space, you know, it feels like it's moving slow. I mean, it's like we've been working for years and nobody's paying attention to us, but we're currently on the forefront of like a major shift in technological evolution of heating infrastructure. You know, like pull Bitcoin out of the entire equation. Like, yes, you can get paid to heat your home or whatever. We're building new types of efficient smart heating, and I think it takes time for people that are not within the Bitcoin space to start to see how this can be beneficial to them, because not only is it producing money, you know, the most sound money we've ever had, but it's also a more efficient way to generate heat. I mean, the amount of watts that you put into these systems is a direct relation to the amount of heat energy that you get out of it, and it's like a 1-to-1 conversion, versus most heating systems are extremely inefficient. They, you know, consume a ton of electricity to produce a small amount of heat. So what we're doing right now, what you're doing right now, working with Riot One, and what many other heat punks, as we're calling them, are doing, is building more efficient heating systems that the world is going to slowly start to recognize as a better alternative to the current outdated systems that are being used right now. And then you overlay the fact that you're mining Bitcoin and subsidizing the cost of that energy with those Bitcoin heaters. I think that, we're going to see a very large shift in the perspective from the normies once, like what happens. Let's say you've got a normie friend, and let's say you're running a Riot One in your home, and you've got a normie friend that comes over and sees this unit in your house, and they're like, what is that? You're like, oh, that's my heater. Like, oh, that's a fancy heater. Yeah, by the way, it makes me money. What do you mean it makes you money? Like, it literally makes money as I'm heating my home, and that light bulb starts to click for people. And I think that happens more and more often. I've had a couple of friends come over to my house, and I mean, there's no fancy lights. It's tucked behind a wall, but they know that I'm a Bitcoiner. And so the heat comes on, and I'll be like, yeah, did you know that thing's making money for me? And they're like, what do you mean it's making money? And I'm like, it's a Bitcoin miner. It mines Bitcoin. And they're like, well, that's kind of cool. And, just this past 2 months ago, I had a buddy who I was talking to about Bitcoin mining, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, I'd like to try to use a miner for some heating applications around my homestead." And I was like, "Oh man, I've got an S9, an old S9 that you can have. Like, just plug it in and see what you can do for it." And he's been heating his greenhouse all winter, so he was actually able to get his plants like started before spring. You know what I mean? So he was able to get them in the ground and get them growing so that, springtime rolls around. Like, he's got all these plants that are fully ready to start producing fruits and stuff like that. So they've got a much longer growing season than he originally had before. And he's loving it. He absolutely loves it. And so I think, if you think exponentially, you look at this and you see more and more people getting onboarded, more and more people understanding the use case of Bitcoin mining heating infrastructure. It grows really fast. And I think that you guys are on the forefront of this. And so you're going to see an exponential increase in the demand for your heating systems over there in Europe. And as a heat punk, I love to see it. I want to see more and more of these systems being built all over the world.
Yes, I also want to see it. So the greenhouse use case you mentioned, actually what I didn't know about greenhouses, they are being heated all year long. So there always needs to be warm air to make the plants grow faster. So that's what I learned through my job and didn't know before. And another point that I see now in the Bitcoin community is that the Bitcoiners which came in last cycle or the cycle before, they now start to mine themselves with their small miners. And they don't have just the nerd miners now, they also have the BitXs. And they start to make them more efficient, hook on bigger fans, bigger heat distributors or heat sinks, let's say. And I think they are just a small step away to become heat punks as we are, and start to heat with their small BitXs, small use cases. So one thing I saw at the last conference I was at is a mug heater, so where you can put your mug on it. And the coffee stays warm. That's so cool. And I think there will be more and more things like that, which might seem just as little gadgets at first, but if you think about it, what's actually happening, it's quite astonishing that there is, let's say, the moral good money printer, which heats at the same time your coffee. And that's just this use case. And there are also other use cases which you and me maybe have not even thought about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you think about you think about all the different things in the world that require heat, and quickly you become inundated with ideas. You know, like there's so many different business use cases where heat is required to produce the product that you're building or trying to sell into the market. You know, and I can't even fathom all of the ideas. And it's like every other week I'm hearing new ways of using heat infrastructure to build a product, outside of just heating the air or heating the water. Like there's other use cases. And you know, it takes people who are inside of these different industries understanding, you know, their specific industry. You know, they know the ins and outs of it, and then they realize, they click that light bulb on. They're like, oh wait, Bitcoin is this heating system, Bitcoin mining is this new way to heat, and I could use that in my industry. And then they start to build that into their industry, and then other people see it, and it slowly takes over the whole world. So again, we're at the precipice of this, man. We're literally at the very beginning, the first innings of the world using Bitcoin mining as heat. And I'm super excited to see where we go 10, 15, 20 years out. It'll be pretty exciting. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining me on the Build a Mind podcast. I got a couple questions before we wrap it up for the day. So, I'm curious to get your ideas and your take on where we're heading, where the Bitcoin mining space particularly is heading into the future, you know, be it 1 year, 5 years, 10 years out. You know, what are some of the thoughts that you're having? And it could be, you know, harebrained, wild ideas, or, you know, rational thoughts, whatever you want to kind of throw at me. What are your thoughts when it comes to the Bitcoin mining space in the future?
Okay, that's a big question. I need to focus quickly to see how I can structure my answer.
Yeah.
But I would say, so the heatpunk movement, the solutions that we propose and that we bring to the world, these mining solutions will remain quite long because economically we are superior to the big miners, which are now mostly of them located to the US. But I also think that many of these big miners are needed for grid balancing. If you look at from a grid perspective, a mining machine is something new and has special properties that others grid connected units cannot achieve. Like a battery is full at some time, but a Bitcoin miner can take up all the electricity it gets and convert it into monetary value. So from that side, I also think there will still be miners in the grid everywhere, like small helpers which help to stabilize or help to suck up all the electricity which is being produced by renewables but not really being used or just overproduced. But definitely the heat repurpose is going to be big. And if we look far out into the future, if we think about where the energy actually comes from, I would say most of the energy on Earth is from the sun. Even if we think of fossil fuels, some thousand or million years ago, it was also sun energy, which probably was converted into fossil fuels, depending on which theory you have for fossil fuel generation.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about that, I would say that the Bitcoin mining will always try to find the cheapest energy and in the end converge towards the sun. And what that actually means, if we think about, let's say, a few hundred years in the future, that the mining would not happen on Earth itself because it would verge towards the sun and maybe build an orbit around the sun to collect the cheap energy. And in some sci-fi ideas, I think it's called, how is it called? Like the level of civilization of us will be at that level that we use all the energy Kardashev scale, exactly, yeah. That we use all the energy of the sun. And I think that Bitcoin mining could be one of the main purposes why we would build like a Dyson sphere around the sun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually have a podcast scheduled with Nick Moran, and he's a guy who is actually trying to pioneer the he's calling it space-based orbital mining. And so this idea is, we have solar powered satellites, we have solar arrays in space, and they're completely powered by the sun, and they're not degraded based on oxygen and other factors that we have here on the terrestrial plane on Earth. And so it's interesting that you say that, because I agree. I mean, it goes from terrestrial based mining to space based mining, and then it kind of just starts to evolve into how can we absorb all of this energy that we're getting photovoltaically or solar powered, from the sun into these miners, and then how can we transfer that to Earth. And it's going to take time. It's going to take smart people who are way smarter than me to actually build these systems out. But it'll be interesting to see where the world goes. It's kind of cool thinking about it, thinking about where the future is headed.
Yes, actually, all of these ideas are not directly from me. I also catch them up from different Bitcoiners along the way. And I have not taken the time to think them through. But I think the satellites, they also need some heat to keep the electric units running properly. So I think there will be some use cases in that way for extraterrestrial Bitcoin mining. So I'm excited to listen to your upcoming podcast on that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited to record that one. So, all right, man. Last question, and I ask everyone this question. So, Sam, what does Bitcoin mean to you?
Actually, I prepared a little bit, and I knew that this question was coming, but it's still also a big question. And I would say for me, Bitcoin is like a light. It showed me the way, or made sure that I can focus on what is important to me, and to dive down all the ways of the Bitcoin rabbit hole, learn different topics, and try to understand better how the world works, even though that are big words, but I really feel like I get a better grasp, more things start to make sense, and I see a better purpose where I want to focus my energy, and where I want to build stuff, where I want to improve the world. So that's what Bitcoin brought me. So I would say Bitcoin for me is like a lantern or light, which shows my way and guides my passions.
I like that answer. That's a really good answer, Sam. Bitcoin is light. It guides people. It guides you on the path. Pulls you out of the darkness per se. I love that.
Yeah, not to get too religious, but yeah, one could think that Bitcoin at some point starts to get quite religious.
It is
yeah,
cult.
Yeah, we are all in the cult.
It's the best cult, though. It's the best kind of cult.
Definitely.
All right, Sam. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to, meet with me today and talk about Riot and the Riot One. I think this is a really cool product. And for all the audience who, made it this far in the episode, definitely go to your guys' website. I've got it here. So riot.com, and that's RY3T.com. And you can go there to check out their page. Obviously, they are only building in the European market, so this is for the European audience. If you guys are in America, we have other heating products that you can use and get involved with. Definitely go seek out the Heatpunks and our Telegram channel, and we'll help you get some heaters installed using Bitcoin miners. So, Sam, thank you so much, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for the invitation, and you have a good day as well.
All right. What did you guys think about that podcast? Definitely leave your comments in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think about the Riot One. It is an interesting platform to get into in the European market. I love the fact that they went straight into immersion technology. And you know, it's just a really cool looking product. If you guys haven't seen it, go over to riot.com. That's RY3T.com. Check out their unit. It's a pretty badass looking unit. And, you know, Sam is a really cool dude. I think that he helped explain what they're doing and what the ethos is behind the company and how they're getting involved in the European market. I know that they're starting out very small. They've only got about 10 units deployed, but they have plans to get to 100 units by the end of the year, which is a very lofty goal. And I think that they'll be able to complete it. So if you guys like the idea of the Riot One, let me know. If you guys think that, you know, maybe it's not going to work, let me know as well. I'd love to see your guys' comments and, you know, have a little bit of discourse around the product. And maybe this will help Riot decide what they want to do moving forward. So let's get this discourse going. Definitely leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think of it. And, you know, if you guys have any other ideas for podcasts, also let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. I love getting the feedback from you guys. So this was a lot of fun. It was really cool talking with Sam, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really loved his idea on what Bitcoin means to him. Bitcoin is light. It's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's guiding us out of the darkness. I fucking love that. So if you guys enjoyed this, please let me know. We will be back next week with another podcast.